Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Legal Lunches, Transitions in Business, Family Business and Privately Held Businesses as well, I suppose. Thanks for joining us. This is brought to you by the Family Business Program at UConn and by Kinkley Allen, wonderful law firm who's been a terrific supporter of ours for many years. And we're going to have this conversation today with Lisa Starin from Kinkley Allen. And she'll tell you more about herself when she gets on, and Capri Rignetti from Miller Foods and Oma's Pride. So she'll talk more about who she is and what she's doing as well in a bit. So here's our agenda. Welcome and introductions. I just did that part. Transitions. Lisa's going to talk about transitions in business to new generations, new owners, or new management. That's something that we don't always talk about, and I think that's important. And then Capri is going to tell her family story. She's been through all of those and many, many more. So, and then as a wrap up, we will talk about what's next. We've got some fun things coming up and educational things coming up in October and later this month as well. So thank you. If you've got questions, you can put them in the chat and we will try to get to them as we're going through, or certainly at the end. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Lisa.
Great. Thank you, Robin. Well, hello and good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. As Robin mentioned, I am a partner in the Trust and Estates Group as part of the corporate department here at Kinkley Allen in our Hartford office. I work very closely with families with their estate planning, as well as with families who have closely held businesses in either the first generation or in succeeding generations to help with their corporate governance, as well as to structure ownership transitions in and out of the family business. Today, I'd like to start the conversation with some of the more intangible considerations that clients and business owners really need to be thinking about as they begin that process of business succession or transition planning. Some of the first questions, as you'll see, can you go to the prior slide there, Robin? That I try to raise with clients are seemingly obvious. What is the reason for your exit? That's kind of the why. And what is the timeline? And that's the when. While those questions are simple and straightforward, sometimes the answers really aren't as clear. As we all know, most business owners are very, very busy. They are busy running their practices, they're busy running their business, they're preoccupied with all of that work and worry that goes in on a day-to-day basis. But it is critical that the owners really sit down and think about that why and when of business succession. Some of our clients come in and they say, Lisa, I want to be out at 65. Others really don't. It's kind of a loose idea. They really no concrete succession concepts have come to fruition yet. Other clients want to retire because they're just tired of running the business. They've been doing it from ground zero, and they just really don't have a clear path forward. And that's all okay. Succession planning is not one size fits all, and the conversation about the transition has to follow according to what your business really needs. The next step in succession planning involves identifying that management succession. Are there key employees who are ready to lead? Do you have children in your business who are ready to take over? And then if none, really, who are the alternatives? Will a competitor buy you? And what about a venture capitalist group who's looking to make an investment? Identifying those possible managers or management is kind of that next step in the conversation. Goals and objectives of the owners are really the third leg in that three-legged stool. And part of that involves a conversation about what are your realistic financial needs after separating from the company? Do you need retirement income? Are most of your assets really tied up in the business so that a transition out would require some liquidity coming out to you so that you can live comfortably for the rest of your life? Other owners are thinking about continued ownership in some form or continued involvement, whether it's for some period of time. Sometimes that's done to help ease the transition, help secure the success of the ownership change, help train the new owners, maintain customers, etc. Other clients really just want a clean break, and at closing, they hand over the keys and they want to be able to walk away. Other clients and other business owners are thinking about rewarding some of their loyal employees by giving them some ownership in the company, or they're thinking about legacies that they want to leave in the community if that's something that it's important to them. Again, these are all intangibles, but all important to be thinking about. We want to make sure that the transition out of the company checks all the boxes that are important to you and meets your goals and expectations. Lastly, market timing is important. One of the things that we always try to keep our finger on the pulse on is what's happening in your particular industry. For example, a lot of companies in the manufacturing field are really struggling to find skilled workers. And so there's concern about that next generation coming in and how they plan for that. So one of those questions is always, what's happening in your industry? Where do you see it going? Is it expanding? Do you have people in line ready to come in? Next slide, please, Robin. Robin, can you go to the next slide? Thank you. So we've talked a little bit about the intangibles, and many times that can take a while. So it's important to start the conversation early. And what I mean by that is have that conversation with your family, have that conversation with your planning attorneys, and also with your accountants and financial advisors. Having that team approach is really important to make sure that, number one, we're structuring things appropriately, but number two, that we're not missing anything along the way. So now let's talk a little bit about ownership transition paths. Transitions can occur for a number of reasons, the most obvious being death, disability, and retirement. As I briefly talked about before, identifying successors for those transition points is a key part of the conversation and the decision-making process. If you have an external successor, such as a competitor, you're talking about a sale of the company. That can be structured a number of different ways. For example, by installment sale, where you're paid over a period of time, in a lump sum at closing, etc. If it's an internal successor, such as to a key employee or to family members, that structure can look very different. In those circumstances, sometimes it's a sale, sometimes it's a gift, or sometimes it's a combination of both. No matter how you structure that transaction, there will always be tax implications. And obviously, nobody likes to pay more tax than they need to. So part of what we do here is we really strive to structure all transactions to be as tax efficient as possible. And that is both from an income tax perspective, when we're thinking about capital gains and ordinary income, but also from an estate and a gift tax perspective. For example, sometimes we recommend using different types of trusts to hold closely held business interests. And that helps to minimize the tax impact for the owner on sale or transfer based on what their financial objectives are, but also in connection with what their estate planning objectives are. In those cases, using trusts have proven to be very useful and very successful, and in some cases have even saved our clients tens of thousands in real tax dollars. For clients with businesses that are transitioning to the next generation, the estate planning piece of it becomes increasingly important. This is particularly true for businesses who have children in the business and children who are not in the business. And that question of fairness and treating children equally in inheritance really comes to a head. Here at Hinckley, we're always very sensitive to kind of those family dynamics and the business dynamics. And we try to create estate plans that help effectuate your goals, maintain the family harmony, and also protect the survival of the business. We do that by setting up a plan to make sure that the right people are in the right places and receive the right assets, whether it's at death or disability. Now, my co-presenter today, Capri, has a really great story about her own family business and how all of that worked for a very successful transition. So with that, I'll turn it over to Capri, and I welcome any questions at the end. Thank you. Capri, I think you're on mute.
Unmuted. Are we good? Good. Hi, everyone. So nice to be here. It's quite an honor, Lisa. I really appreciate all that information. Every time I hear it, it makes me think of things a little bit differently, even though we've gone through multiple transitions at this point. We'll be heading into another transition in the next few years. So I'm always anxious to hear any new and different information that comes out in ways that we can actually help our business to transition once again. But we do have a fourth generation family business, Miller Foods, home of Almost Pride in Avon, Connecticut. So it's my family there on the screen with grandmother and aunt, mother. So there's actually multiple generations in that picture. This is our legacy picture. You'll see that many places we try to share that story because we are simply still doing that same thing right now, which is sharing the legacy of Thanksgiving and the gift of turkeys at the holidays. But the primary part of our business is pet food. So let me just share a little bit about the family history. Right on the farm in Avon, my grandparents arrived around 1950. And they had these two daughters in tow, my mother and my aunt, and they were young girls and with very little on the farm. Some chickens, and those chickens laid eggs. Grandmother was pretty industrious, started selling eggs door to door. That evolved into selling other poultry, turned into a turkey farm a few years later. And we've been literally in the food business for decades, so 70 plus years. But grandparents worked very hard and built a very successful couple of businesses, actually, one in transportation and one in food distribution. But they died very young as well. So in their early 60s, they both passed away, one right after another. And I would say that would be quite a horror story to share with everyone right now. So I won't do that. But it was for lack of planning. And there was no way to know that someone would really pass away quite so young and together. So in their defense, I think they did what they felt they could at the time to set it up. But clearly it was just quite a mess. Lots of tax implications at a time when it was heavily taxed. So I think that's really an important piece. When I just heard that, Lisa, from you, I saw that. I was like, that's a really important piece. The tax implications are high if there is no plan. So anyhow, they had passed away and my mother and my aunt inherited a business, a farm, land with very little knowledge of how to actually run the business. So you talk about leadership and who would be those people in the leadership position. But if you're not shared any leadership skills and you don't have the ability to learn that, and you're going to have struggle. So my mother and my aunt, well, they were very hardworking and gave it their all. They still only had so much in terms of what they had as the skill set to run a business of that size. And at that point, it was a fairly significant business with 60 plus employees and and 20 plus trucks. It was quite a business. So they did transition the business then, but that was death, right? We don't really want to see that. That's the story, right? We don't want to see it transition to death because someone literally just passes away. Not a good plan. Second time around actually was a better plan. So my mother and aunt had just assumed, because their parents worked until they passed, that they would just continue to have to work until they passed away. But one of the reasons I came back to the business, which is for the second time and 12 years ago, was to actually help the family to be able to know what a real retirement looks like. And my goal was simply to have my mother and aunt have a path, and my uncle at the time have a path to retirement, right? That was really my goal. When you talk about like goals, like what are your lofty goals, and why are you leading the business? Why are you in the business? What is the transition? The transition to me was like a part of retirement. Like, these people have worked decades. Can we help them live their life in a really positive way? And I'm happy to say that after a lot of struggle, and it didn't come without lots of hard conversations, many tears, some laughs, all the good stuff, but we were able to transition. I actually purchased my mother's side of the business, which allowed her to retire and enjoy her life for a bit. She passed recently, but she did have, I would say, some enjoyment in her retirement, which I was very grateful for. And my aunt is doing amazing. She's an ambassador with us, and my uncle, and they have recently retired. Their transition was very different. They held their stock ownership. They didn't sell, so that's fine. And we worked that out as well. So there's like not a clear path. There's many ways you can go about and do this. And so then I was, I'm in the business, I'm running it. We have multiple family members, and slowly, but surely these family members, which I encourage, wanted to go out and do other things, right? So then you're like, now what are we going to do? And my son, Adam, who had gone the corporate route and had not been in the business other than like right after college, he came to me and he said, I'm really interested. And so that has been a really interesting transition. And that'll be another transition to ownership that will take through a variety of things, through gifting, through purchase. It'll be sort of a mix, right? But it's nice to see that we have fourth generation ownership and leadership at this point. And I really believe that as much that you can help that next generation to prepare for, the more successful your family business is going to be. So I think one of the things that's a hard topic and a hard lesson to learn, and I saw it with my grandfather, he always taught me a lot, but he didn't necessarily teach my mother and my aunt quite as much to run the business on a day-to-day basis. And you have to have the business functioning, right? So I encourage a lot of people to let go of some of those, I don't know that control is the best word, but if you have some concerns over those things that you want to hold close to you, just help get resources around yourself to share more knowledge with those people that are going to help to transition your business and get you to the next generation. So, and not every family business will transfer to the next, right? There is a limit sometimes on if there's someone willing, if you have enough leadership behind you, that you may not need necessarily a family member to be in that role. You may have new management. We've brought on someone for the first time that really is managing a huge aspect of our company. And that's new and that's different. And it does take some getting used to, but I just happens to be my 12th anniversary today back at the family business for the second time. And I just got a note from him and I just said, I don't want to do this with anyone else, right? We want to do this with people that love and care about your business. But our family business story, I think, is a good snapshot of a small family business that has the potential to evolve into a much larger family business. And it can go many ways in these next few years. But I just feel very grateful that we have found a path, right? And I think the key is that you see, but with Lisa's examples, that there are very different ways of having this actually transition. And what you don't want to do is do nothing. So even if you just simply reach out, right, Lisa or others, right, and you reach out and you say, can we just have a first call? We just need an initial call. Can I have an initial conversation about this? And part of that is people just don't know what to expect. They don't know how to make that next step. Or if you ignore it, it might go away. Well, it doesn't go away. We all know that in business, things will gradually, they'll eventually just rise and you're going to have to deal with them. I'd love to see people more out in front of it. So that's our family business story. It's great to watch the family now, like how we interact differently because we have less people in the family business. And it's so much fun watching my son Adam. He just became a grandma. So Adam has just had a son. So he's quite a distance off though from leadership. So this little Geo at 4 months, but we're hopeful. So anyways, I really appreciate being here today. If you guys have questions, happy to field them. But my message really ultimately is that the UConn Family Business Program is a really great support. It has so many great partners. Robin, I have known for quite a few years now and just have watched this really evolve. And I appreciate everything that all of you are doing to participate. We're going to have something on the farm. Robin will share, I think around the 12th of October. I think I have the date right. And we'd love to see you come down and just chat with each other, just open up conversations and see if there's ways to connect and find some paths to, like a positive transition. So that would be my family business story.
Thank you. Can you tell a little bit though? Can you do a little advertisement for the Thankful Turkeys? Can you talk about the turkeys before I take over?
Well, the turkeys
are
right
bring
there.
That in too. Pardon?
The turkeys are right there on the screen.
I know. So talk about the turkeys.
Okay. So
all right, talk about turkeys and talk about the pet foods because the dean and I are huge fans of the turkeys and the pet food. So you got to do that before I let you go and we start asking questions.
Okay. So it's always a little bit like humbling here. So we have, it was, like I said, it was turkey farm. And so the turkey farm has evolved over many decades. Now we're in 70 plus years. So we partner with other farms. And a couple of years ago during the pandemic, my cousin Taryn, who's in this photo, she came up with a concept and a program called Thankful Turkey. And the Thankful Turkey was literally created out of a need in COVID to help families. So you purchase a turkey and then a turkey goes to a family in need. So we delivered thousands of turkeys to Food Share. Last year evolved a little bit differently because people wanted larger gatherings, right? These are smaller turkeys. Things change. People wanted to donate more. They kept calling us like, can we donate? How many turkeys can we give? So that's been an exciting part. Now, my cousin Taryn just had twins, so she is not doing the program this year, but we are continuing the program in a little bit of a different way. So what we do have is an employee appreciation program that we have done for decades that thousands and thousands of families in Connecticut and all over actually benefit from their employer reaching out to us. We get turkeys directly to their homes or to them. And it's been a really successful program for decades. People love it. They get a fresh Miller turkey. It's really fun. It's something different. So that's a pitch. And in terms of like, if you really want to take your gifting to your employees and appreciation to like a different level, something new, and rather than the traditional gift card or something like that, it's a really nice way to connect. And then you share pictures and recipes and family, all of that goes on. So that's that piece. So yes, millerfarms.us, please visit. But our pet food is like what we do each and every day. So I head up our manufacturing of our pet food in Avon, and my son Adam handles the distribution and all that goes into that over in Bristol. So we're still operating out of our Avon location. We do ship pet food all over the US. And thank you, Robin, for letting me do this, because I'm so happy to announce we partnered with a national distribution company that is a local family business to New England, that our product just got into their first 2 warehouses in Rhode Island and Pennsylvania. So where traditionally you haven't been able to see a lot of our Almost Pride pet food in your like traditional small pet store, right? Or larger chains. And this allows us to get more people, and they're of course not the people purchase more dogs and cats to be able to experience our amazing pet food. So that's an exciting piece to the family business. That's something Adam really brought on board. And when we added this new partner of ours, it is really a game changer to pet food and how pet food is distributed. So that's exciting. But also we do e-commerce, and you can certainly drop in right in Avon, but almostpride.com is where you would find us. And so we appreciate that. That's really what employs all of our, right, our team members. And one other quick thing I just want to add is, it really came to light today for me. One of our team members just had an anniversary, and we have always, you know, from when I was a kid, I just remember my grandparents always doing this, and it's just something naturally that came to what we do. But we've always tried to give people opportunity where there wasn't opportunity for them. And I think that that's something very unique to our business. I know people do it, and you know, it is something that's done, but it's not common. And so I would encourage anyone that's on this call or ends up seeing this in some way, shape, or form, to give people opportunity that may not have it. Because I've watched people that literally came out of halfway houses have bought their first homes. And for me, that's part of a story that's not necessarily for the transition, but what it does is, when I think about, like Lisa, on your slide, when you wrote something about, you know, rewarding those employees, like, what a great thing to know that I would always, if something were to ever change in our family business and that were to be part of what we did, right? And we transition this to a sale for some reason, at some point, you just don't know, in decades or however that may look, that would be something that would be really important to know, like, who are those people? We would want to support those people because we've watched them grow so much. And I just encourage people to also just look at the human side of things, right? And how that would impact those people that help build what you have. It's not done in a vacuum. So you're doing it with the help of a lot of people. So thanks, Robin, for letting me.
No, that's the legacy piece.
Yeah, exactly. That's what we're here for, right? To help improve the lives of others, and in our case, pets as well. So
yeah, well, and our pets back in Spokane, love, big fans.
oh,
So thank you for that. So I'm going to do a little advertisement for what we've got coming up, and then we'll go to questions and open it up. I'm hoping to direct Matt Carberry, and he's got a lot of scar tissue and a lot of resources and skills in this sort of world as well. He's part of the Family Business Network. So we've got a governance workshop next week with Hinkley Allen and some others, and you can find this all on our website. But the other one that Capri was talking about is the family dinner at Miller Farm. So at the Family Business Program, we do 3 things. We educate. So this sort of counts as the education piece. We've got some undergrad classes. We do interns. We've got winter interns if you've got projects you want to work on. So we're big in education. Land grant universities are supposed to do that. We think we do a pretty good job at it. We do executive ed. So in the executive ed side, we've got a revenue workshop as well coming up in October, and then a deeper dive into transitions. So if you want to come and actually help build a plan, figure out the next steps, we're going to have a working session in Hartford. So that's the October events. So Educate Connect is the fun stuff. That's the family dinner there, and then grow. We've got a membership program. We're trying to grow the program and bring more people in. We've got some ambassadors, and those include some folks from Hinkley Allen and Capri. So if you've got questions and you want to reach out to somebody and ask them, what do you think? We've got some people that are good at that as well. So I'm going to take this down, I hope, and open it up to chat. let's see, stop share, there. And if you've got questions, you can put them in the chat or raise your hands. There's some familiar faces that are that are here. So if you've got a question, I know, Lisa, I was excited about what you said, and I think that's important that people think about process and try to. It's got to be scary. I said to both Lisa and Capri and Nika when we were on earlier, it's a question that comes up with almost every social networking event. Someone says, I'm really worried about the transition. I don't know what it means. I don't know what my options are. I don't know where to go, where to get started. So I appreciate the information. And I was going to embarrass Matt. Matt Carberry has been a part of the ecosystem around family business for a long time. And if he's willing to come on, I bet he's got some stories. He's a wealth management expert in. Hey, Matt.
Hi, Robin. How you doing? Hi, everybody.
Yeah, I figured you're listening to this and you got to be thinking, oh man, what are your words of wisdom to add to this conversation?
Well, I tell you, it's great always to hear a success story, because having done this for 20 years and focusing on business and exit planning and succession planning, I've seen the good and the bad. And, I've dealt with a couple of situations recently that have been just very tragic in terms of just unexpected deaths and the planning that wasn't put in place prior to that, to the expectations that certain family members had upon a partner leaving. So, it's just, you got to get out in front of this stuff. I mean, unfortunately, we don't think about this because it's not at the front of our consciousness that at some point we're going to want to retire. We're going to, we potentially are going to be disabled. And at some point in time, we're going to pass away. But when you have a business and you have a complex asset like that, failure to plan can create serious problems for those that are left behind. So I always like hearing Capri's story, and I live right up the street in Avon. So it's a business that is near and dear to us. And I love the times that I can get there. But I mean, I thought that the presentation, especially by the partner at Hinckley Allen, when we do a lot of work with them, as a matter of fact, we have a meeting scheduled with them with a mutual client coming up in a couple of weeks to try and help a business owner think about his transition out of the business. But there's a lot of that activity going on right now that we're seeing. There's a lot of private equity money out there. There's a lot of VC money that's out there. The multiples that are getting thrown around are alarming. I wish I was in a position where I was at the end of my career, just what I'm seeing as multiples. But we just try and work with other advisors, legal and tax advisors, at times their insurance advisors, as well as their bankers, so that we're all on the same page. The advice I give a lot of my business clients is that you don't need to be a publicly traded company to have a board of directors. That's some of my favorite advice that I give out. And what I think you need to do is multiple times per year, get everyone around the table at the same time, where everyone collectively is working towards your best interest. I think a lot of positive things get accomplished when business owners have those kinds.
So that's interesting. So thinking about funding, I know you've done some different things, Capri, I know, but what are the options in terms of funding exits? If you've got mom and dad or grandma and grandpa or crazy Uncle Charlie, that you need to get some money off the table to help fund that, what are the options for funding exits? If it's not an outright sale to a vulture capitalist or a private equity,
Sure.
if you want to.
Well, I'm going to tell you of a strategy that we have used. So right now we have as competitive of a labor market as we've ever had. You have the unemployment rate at 3.6%. You have this incredible demand for talent, and you have so much competition out there for talent. And I had someone the other day that said, Matt, I just figured I'd throw my hat in the ring and see what was out there. And, a recruiter had lined up 5 different opportunities for this one person who didn't think that she was qualified, mind you. Now, I would argue that. But so when you've got a company and you look at the balance sheet of the company, do you know the one line item that never appears on the balance sheet that's probably the most valuable line item? It's human capital. It's the human capital component. So if you think about that as a business owner, what have you done to secure those folks? You've got someone who's your head of sales who has the relationship with all of your customers, who's going to walk out the door and go work for Farmington Foods. I mean, do you have that person locked down legally? Have you offered them something that would make it punitive or costly to leave? So we do a lot by way of deferred compensation arrangements. The nice thing about deferred compensation is that it can be discriminatory. So you don't have to offer it to everyone. So for those of you that have a retirement plan, I'm sure you're aware that you have to treat people equally. There's certain testing requirements that come in that you have to go through year in and year out. But with some of these deferred compensation arrangements, you actually have to be discriminatory. It can't be offered to the vast population. It's intended for a much smaller audience. So where I'm going with all of this is, one, look at your key people and ask yourself, what would happen if they're not there tomorrow? And if your answer to yourself is that it would be a problem, then what are you doing to protect against that? And then secondly, if you look at those same people and say, these people very well may be a part of my succession, think about pre-funding your exit by setting up some sort of a plan that is for their benefit, so that in the future, they can use those dollars as the down payment to buy into the business. So a couple of ideas that we've run with and had great success with. But again, I have seen really good employees leave really good companies, and those companies weren't really great after those employees left. So good exercise for everyone.
Yeah, Lisa, do you do, I know the employee stock, ESOPs, employee stock option programs.
Yes.
I know they're a thing. I don't think there's a ton of them that go on. I know a couple of them in Connecticut. Do you see, can you talk, maybe Lisa, you could talk a little bit about what it is and what kind of businesses it might make sense for?
I can kind of speak to it briefly. My partner, Jen Doran, in the Boston office is generally who I send all the ESOP work to. But essentially, my understanding of it is that it's a retirement program where the employees ultimately end up with stock, ownership of the company, or partial interests over time. And it's a nice way to fund both the retirement of the owners, as well as to give valuable employees an incentive to stay, an incentive to grow the value of the business, because it not only financially benefits them, but gives them that sort of intangible pride of what they're doing. The ESOPs that I've seen done are generally in larger companies, probably not appropriate for kind of a mom and pop with 10 to 25 employees, but definitely something to talk about for 100 plus, et cetera.
And can you get bank financing or other financing if you want to? I mean, how do you get the funding if it's not if you're not big enough for an ESOP, but you need it takes? Can you fund it through private capital, through bank capital?
Sure.
Are there other ways?
Yeah, so a lot of companies, they'll do either, the sellers themselves will act as the bank and take back a note. Other times the buyers can qualify for bank financing. When it's an intra-family transfer, there are different rules about loans that you can make to family members and what interest rates have to apply. So there's a lot of different ways to structure financing, both for really the smaller range of the purchase price to the larger ones.
Matt, did you want to add something to that?
Well, the only thing that I would add is that I bought a business in 2021, and it was financed by a local bank. We used Northwest Community Bank. It was a business that is in the same industry as the one that we were in that area. But at the time, BA, and there was a provision as part of the CARES Act that waived our first 5 months of payments. So, yeah, now that has since, those monies have since dried up. But yeah, I'm seeing a lot of bank financing. in strategic type buyer situations, like my own. We often will assist clients with that, just making sure that the terms and the structure of the loan are attainable and that the business can afford that. We have great relationships with a lot of the local banks. So, yeah, I mean, there's still a lot of activity that's going on. I think COVID just resulted in a year's worth of activity just never really occurring. And I think a lot of business owners who have gotten through COVID, whose businesses weren't really materially impacted, have kind of taken a step back and let out a big sigh and said, I think I'm done, right? Maybe I should have checked out a couple of years ago and I hung on because I had to get my business through this period. But a lot of business owners are looking to capitalize. And the only other, I guess, common conversation that we have with our business owner clients that are in businesses that have really held up well is sometimes it's the old saying, you have to sell a good asset and hold on to a bad asset. So ideally, clients don't want to have to sell out of stocks. The bond market's down 10%. Sometimes you have to sell a good asset and hold on to a bad asset. And that's the dialogue that has been shifted over the last 9 or so months in light of the equity markets, that people are looking to sell out of assets that have.
Yeah, I can see that. We've got a wonderful resource at UConn that every state has a small business development center, which is funded by the SBA, and Connecticut has theirs housed out of UConn, and they're a wonderful resource. They're up on our website as well. They've got free resources, they've got wonderful advisors, and not all, but most of them have some background in family business. Family businesses are 60+% of our economy. So if you're not working with a family business, you're selling to one or buying from one or somehow engaged in one. So a lot of their advisors have some real experience in scar tissue in family business. So they're always a place to start. They know the banks, they know where the grants are, they know that whole landscape. I think they've worked with you over there at Miller Foods on and off over the years as well. So they're a great resource. So if anyone has, I don't see any more questions coming up. So I think this has been great. We'll let you have the last 15 minutes of your lunch hour to either have your lunch or make a call or take a walk. And I thank you so much. It's been recorded. We'll get up on our website and share it with you if you want to share it with others. And we hope we'll see you next month. So thanks everyone for joining. And thank you especially to Lisa and to Capri and to Matt for weighing in. Thanks to Megan for setting the thing up. And have a nice fall.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Take care.